All right, man. Told you to talk. Like, share, subscribe to the page. Hit the thumbs up button if you like the content. So today I want to talk about House of the Dragon versus Rings of Power. Um, I planned on doing this video a little while ago. It's not going to be a long video. It's going to be short, and how I feel about the two shows so far, and why I think which one is better, and why I would recommend the other one over the other one. And let's get into it. So, House of the Dragon versus Rings of Power. Here's the thing, right? This is what I'm gonna I'm gonna I'm gonna just say. These are two fantasy novels or fantasy shows which are kind of different in a way, I would say. Not the same. Have the they're both fantasies and they're both based around certain things, but I think one is a little more rooted in family, and it's a little more believable than the other. There's nothing taken nothing away from the two writers. Two writers are Tolkien and Martin. It's nothing taken away from both of them. I just think that, well, this wasn't written by Tolkien, the Lord of the Rings of Power. I don't think that was actually written by him. I think that was somebody else who did the writing, and then they just put money into it, brought the IPs, Amazon or whatever. But as far as House of Dragon goes, yeah, that was written by Martin. So the major difference between the two is you can see the progression in the lead character in the one show. And in the other one, they feel like you're supposed to feel that way about her. So like Galadriel, you're supposed to feel this way about her. If you feel as though that she is a woman who's oppressed and she's been through something in her life, and you have to identify with her, because you feel the way she feels. Rhaenyra is different because they're taking you on a journey on why she feels the way she feels. There's no victimhood there. And if you believe that there's a victimization or a victimhood there, it's because you probably look at the character and say, okay, well, I see where this is going. But you feel that it's pushing towards that. This one here, how can I really feel so bad for her when she's great at everything? She has no flaws. How can I feel so bad for this one? But with this one, I understand her position. I understand what happens, you know what I'm saying, what goes on with her. So that's the thing. So Rings of Power feels like a big, this is how I feel, and I want you to understand how I feel type of show. I feel like at this point, we shouldn't be pushing for forced diversity, forced this, forced genderism. We shouldn't be pushing for that. Because if you believe that you should be all inclusive or anything of that nature, then it should just organically happen. You shouldn't have to remind us that this one here has some issues, but she's so great at what she does. Because they don't do that with this one. They don't. And that's the biggest problem I see between the two shows. It's a fantasy epic, but it absolutely feels like a fantasy epic. But a bad fantasy epic. It feels like such an expensive B-rated movie. That's exactly what Rings of Power is. Such an expensive looking B-rated movie. It just looks totally, the look is good, but just the way it comes off. It comes off as this like as this victimhood. You want to understand where I'm coming from, subliminal messages here and there type show. This one here doesn't come off that way. So when people say stuff like, "Oh well, this racism, there's racism in this show. This is the reason why in the cast and crew, we stand with the cast and crew and we stand towards the racism in the show." That's bullshit. Because guess what? If you were so, it's two things that I would say, right? One, off the back, there's a whole black family in this show, and no one seems to care. You know why? Because the writing in the show is interesting. The characters are good. There's a whole black character. No one's going off and saying, "Hey, we need to get rid of House of Dragon." No one's saying that. Actually, the audience is saying the opposite, right? But you'll get some people who try to lump it in together. No, it's not the same. You can't lump it in because nobody's complaining about House of Dragon being diverse. But because you know why? They didn't force it. Even though the character in the book is a white guy in the book, guess what? Nobody cared because it wasn't forced. And on top of that, the characters are interesting. That's why. But see, with Rings of Power, it's not like that. It's forced in there. And you constantly reminding people. That's number two. Number three, if you cared so much about diversity and you felt as though the diversity was such a big deal, then why you didn't cast Galadriel as a black woman? Why you didn't do that? If you so hung up on diversity, you know why they didn't cast her as a black woman? Because guess what? They don't give a fuck about diversity. It's not about that. It's about virtue signaling. If you want to say, "Hey, we're going to cast, we're going to be diverse, and the main character is going to be a black woman," you know why they didn't do that? Because they know that if they did that, they would look stupid. They said, "Well, why is the main character a black woman? We know Galadriel is a white woman with blonde hair and blue eyes. We know that. Why would we cast her as a black woman?" Because y'all don't care about diversity. Y'all just use these people and make them say what they want, because you give these people money, they're going to say whatever. Yeah, I bet you years later they're going to complain about it. They're going to say, "Well, to be honest with you, I could have had a better part," or something like that. But the two fantasy novels are totally different from each other. They're not the same. They're not. These shows are not even on the same level in any way. As far as the special effects go and all the cinematography and all that stuff, okay, I would say that Rings of Power looks good. It looks phenomenal. But the issue is, it just looks that. House of Dragon looks phenomenal. You could say that the reason why Rings of Power look better than House of Dragon, because there's some sets where they built the whole set. It's not just CGI. That's the biggest issue that I run into with Rings of Power. There's scenes that look just nothing but CGI. Everything is CGI. Everything. That's why it doesn't look better to me than House of Dragon. House of Dragon looks dark. It looks good. It looks gritty. And there's some major CGI in there. But guess what? It looks real. This here, you know it's fake. That's the problem that I think that people are saying, "Oh, it looks beautiful." It looks like a PlayStation 5 game. That's what it looks like. It looks it looks like a PlayStation 5 game compared to a PlayStation 4 that was that you got all the driver codes. It looks like a PlayStation 5 game. Rings of Power looks like a PlayStation 5 game. That's just that. But the two shows, the main characters, there's no comparison. There's no comparison. This one here is snarky. Just feel like she just like you just feel like you just want her off the screen. Nobody wants to watch her. This one here, we want to keep watching what Rhaenyra says. We want to see where her story goes. Her? Nobody. I don't want to see. I don't even want to watch it no more. I'm just like, oh God, here she go again. Oh God. No, nothing. Oh, she can flip and do all this stuff. Oh God, here we go again. This person's so predictable, so predictable, and I just don't see the comparison. Now, as far as the other side characters, come on, man, come on, it's it's still no comparison. So I would recommend. I'm just gonna be saying. I'm just gonna just be blunt. I wouldn't recommend Rings of Power to anyone. I wouldn't. Because I just think that if you like nice looking stuff, then it's for you. But if you like boring and not entertaining and nothing has nothing to do with nothing and just a bunch of empty quotes and stuff like that just to make people sound like they have some type of lore or smart, then you would probably love Rings of Power. But if you like a fantasy novel that's not gonna hold your hand, that's really gonna show you something, that's really gonna go with what they really believe, then yeah, you're going with House of the Dragon. You're going with House of the Dragon. Hands down. But yeah, man. I just think that for me, 3 episodes in on both shows, and I don't even see why this is even a topic. I don't even see why this is even a discussion. Like on any front. How is that this is even a discussion? House of the Dragon is just like 10 times better than Rings of Power. I don't even see why people even comparing the two. The main character is not better than the main character. The side characters are definitely not better. And his storyline is much better. The acting is much better. The set looks amazing. I'm gonna say it looks much better, but the set looks believable. So I can say, yeah, the set looks better because it looks believable. And you want to see what's happening next. I wanted to. I love Lord of the Rings. I love Lord of the Rings. I love the Peter Jackson films. I love Lord of the Rings. I went into this thinking that it was going to be something like that because I didn't listen to what people were saying. People just talk, and it just goes to show you how confused people are. The first thing people say is the patriarchy. Oh, the patriarchy has total control of everything. And then you at the same time you champion a white woman doing these things that you know that she could not do. But it's a fantasy novel. So I don't see why people would say that. I'm just playing devil's advocate. Me, I don't care. But I also got to recognize that if you're going to say that it should be all inclusive, everything should be all inclusive, then don't get mad if they make Black Panther white. That's all I'm saying. You can't have both. My thing is I look at Rings of Power and I say to myself, this show, as far as the diversity goes, this show is basically saying, like, kind of if you go to Broadway and you go to a Broadway play, And you go to a Broadway play, and the Broadway play has let's say a Shakespearean play or something like that, and the lead role is a black guy, and you don't really care because you know it's just a play. That's how I look at Rings of Power. I look at Rings of Power like the diversity doesn't mean anything because to me it's just a regular movie with characters are just playing characters. So it really, to me, it really doesn't have to really make sense, you know. And to me, that's another reason why I think that House of Dragon is better because this seems like child's play to me. It's like, oh yeah, well, we just gonna do it this way and that's it. It just fill it in. It's just a filler in people. But when it comes to House of the Dragon, everything means something. Everything. It's just so much more interesting. And I believe that Rings of Power is gonna get canceled. And I'm gonna tell you that right now. I know that someone said that they got 5 seasons. I just don't see this going 5 seasons. No, in no way, unless they paid for it already. There's no way that this show would make it for 5 seasons. I believe that this show probably be canceled after second season because nobody's gonna be watching this unless they get some writers for season 2 and some heavy actors and they do something that's just totally different and make it so much more better. Then yeah. But other than that, I don't see where this is going. I can see this show going for 6 or 7 seasons, maybe 8, just like the regular Game of Thrones. Because yeah, people are in tune. House of Dragon versus Rings of Power. I recommend House of Dragon over Rings of Power. I think Rings of Power is just a waste of time. I'm still going to continue to watch it, but I believe it's just a waste of time at this point. Because if they haven't caught me by now, I'm sure they ain't going to catch you. So, Torture Talk, you know what it is.